So you got it approved,
Yeah.
but now you've run into some trouble, or it's just taking a while.
I would say challenges, maybe
Okay.
maybe a little challenges. You know, the location's great. I mean,
Yeah.
we're 30 minutes right from downtown Reading to this spot, and you know, you got the great pine forest, you got the trees and everything. You know, but I think just inherent to like a piece of property like this, you have a few challenges. You know, there's probably three major areas. One of them would be market dynamics. One of them would be the environment itself, and then probably the thermal regulatory. You know, and so some of those challenges are harder than others. I think the market dynamics are that something like since we're outside of we're probably 30 minutes outside of the city.
Yeah.
Costs can tend to go up, and we've had some issues with COVID, and some of that's coming back online now. You know, we're getting labor and costs are coming back into line to where they should be, which is great. But you still have a challenge of pricing out here. You know, outside of the inner city, probably prices would tend to be anywhere from 10 to 30% higher than they would be here.
Okay.
So when you're building, you have that challenge of wanting to build, maybe 10 to 30% below cost, so you can get insert in the market at a place where it's competitive. So I think that in some ways we're almost designing a new market that doesn't exist yet for this project. So because basically sales would range maybe 10 to 30% below what it would cost to even build.
Well, that's what I'm hearing. Yeah. Tell me if you think that these numbers are in the right ballpark, but that, average house in Reading area is like $250 per square foot.
Right.
But, I was talking with some other builders and they were saying, for us to make a profit, we need to sell it at like 320 per square foot. And so the numbers just don't compute.
Yeah, that's kind of
what you're up against.
Yeah, that's kind of what you were saying in that piece that I read. And it really is, that is part of the challenge. But I think that, we're developing new markets because there's new people coming. We lost a lot of supply with the fires. And that was kind of what, my passion, and that's what drew me into the market to begin with, was I wonder how we could maybe add to the supply.
Yeah.
So I was looking around for projects like this one, and this one's great because this was already a tentative map, and it was 80 to 90% the way there. So it was just kind of pushing it over the finish line. And, Shasta County was great in helping us to get over the finish line on this one. So, market dynamics are, well, maybe we need to pay attention to what the market really wants. Not just building what we think it wants, but really, paying attention what people are looking for, what buyers are looking for in terms of the product and location and all that.
Do you have a sense for where the unmet demand is in the market right now?
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a shortfall in housing. It's that magic spot of getting into the market where people can afford it, and and building something that they actually want to have. So those are challenges, but I think that we're up for that challenge. And
how big are these houses going to be?
Oh yeah, so here's an initial design of. So these are going to be kind of like B&B friendly. The first one we're doing is like a timber cabin.
Okay.
And we want to try to. It's a great local story because we want to try to reutilize some of the burn fire timbers.
Oh wow.
And build these. These are single story with 2 master bedrooms on the main floor, which makes them real great. B&B friendly with real modern finishes inside. Yeah, but then the exterior walls would be all timber walls.
Very cool.
Yeah, and then we have big open loft space up top. Probably a big deck. These would be around 2,000 square feet. So this way a family could, use them for their own vacation, or they can also, have guests and different things like that. So they can make use of it, maybe use these part of the year. This one has like a spiral stair.
Yeah, I like the loft.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
And you get some of the, the rustic look of the old timbers on the exterior walls, but all the interior walls are, modern framing, so you can have can lights and, modern drywall and doors and windows.
Okay.
Like that.
And are you doing traditional kind of stick construction? Is that the plan?
Well, it's a blend. It's a blend. So we were following another build over by Keswick that just got approved, and it's a cabin build like this one. So basically the idea would be to build the exterior walls out of stacked timbers, just all the perimeter walls. These would be all stacked timbers, and then all of the trusses and all of the interior walls would be standard construction.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's the idea.
So you mentioned market dynamics are a challenge, which we
Yeah.
talked a bit about, and then the environmental, I'm assuming wildfire risk, especially when you're out here.
Yeah, and
Big sea fire.
forest management, and thankfully we're so fortunate to land in a project area here. There's a local nonprofit that's doing a forest management program, fire field mitigation program. We just happen to fall in their project area, so
Okay.
yeah, we're all signed up for that. It's going to take some time, but basically what they're going to do is come in and do all the brush clearing, thinning out the canopy, so you have a healthy forest, and you have a sustainable resource. And the great thing about here is the environment. The challenging thing about here is the environment.
Right.
So we got the mountains, the trees, the lakes, and rivers that we all love, and the hiking and all that. But also, the fire fuel is a real concern. So as it turns out, this area here, they're putting in, there's a larger area here where they're putting in a fire break for the town of Shingletown, which is about a mile over our shoulder back here.
Right,
so that's coming in, and we're all lined up for that. It's a huge benefit to us. But the timing on that is probably 18 to 36 months. So that brings me to my next
Why is that?
point. Well, it just has to go through the process. There's archaeological study.
CEQA or NEPA, like
Yes.
the environmental regulations before they can do the clearing?
Yeah, and that's all, from what I understand, it's all underway. They've
Okay.
come out, they've done site study, and it's approved. It's just in the process. It takes time to do things. And, Shasta County, it takes time to do things, but it's a great place to be. Everybody wants to be here. So, that's part of the dynamic of being here, is that we're dealing with a natural resource. So that brings me to my next point, which is regulatory. So I think for me, one of the dynamics of this project is that as soon as it was approved, we had assessments for infrastructure that isn't built yet. So, basically, I think, how could the county, maybe this is something you could speak to, as a candidate for supervisor, these are the kinds of things that we would need from government, from a developer point of view, that would really help us. I think maybe to, obviously make the permitting process a little smoother and quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, like I said, that's been really great. It's gone through real well. I have no complaints about that. I think the other thing would be maybe on some of the assessments, because basically, if any new taxes or any assessments on infrastructure, especially before it's built, could be set aside. Now, the premise of this was that it was already built, so we had all of our new assessments for the infrastructure drop in immediately as soon as the project was approved. Where the reality is, it might take 36 months to 3 to 5 years for this to be built out. So it would be really helpful for us as developers if some of that new, the new taxes. I guess they say it's not a tax; it's an assessment. But any money that goes into the government coffer is a tax, as far as I can tell.
Regardless of what you call it,
where it goes. So I understand that resources need to be available so that roads can be maintained. But my question would be, well, could some of that be set aside until the actual improvements are built, and then start to, collect funds to maintain those improvements? So that's probably one major thing that would be a big help to us.
So just to make sure I'm understanding, so basically you have to pay a fee to the county to maintain the infrastructure that's built, and right now you're paying that even though it hasn't been built yet. So it's it would seem it seems like it makes sense. Now it's worth looking into more, but it seems like it makes sense, like, to not actually charge that until it's been built, since the county isn't responsible for maintaining anything at this point, is it?
Right.
Or are they doing things out here?
Yeah, and I understand how it was put in was basically because the map, it's assumed that the infrastructure is already built, but in this case it hasn't been. So we're working with the county, and they've been really real responsive, and we've had quite a few meetings to see what can be maybe done to set some of that aside until the stuff is built. And I think, it might seem like a small thing, but I think it's a big message to a developer that, hey, we need the housing, we want the housing, we want to do whatever we can from a regulatory standpoint to help you to make it happen. So, yeah.
Well, and I think to your point earlier that it's not just that, right? If it was just that, it'd be like, oh, well, maybe we can, front the cash on, what these fees are. But when you consider how tight your margins are in terms of the market dynamics, and even just trying to make money in this market is so hard,
it could be,
that it sounds like any additional challenge or financial loss that you add to that just makes it kind of,
Yeah.
increasingly difficult to make.
Yeah, and the other side of that is it's a real shot in the arm if they can set some of that aside for us. I mean that gives us a chance
Right.
because you're not under the burden of the responsibility of maintenance fees on stuff that isn't built yet. Basically, is my point. And it may seem like a small in terms of the whole countywide and everything that's going on, but for me it's meaningful and it's substantial because it sends me a message that hey, from the beginning the county's on your side. We want to try to do what we can do, and there's still provision in there to collect the resources. Once the roads are built, they're going to need to start collecting those fees and to at some point maintain these roads. So
yeah. Absolutely, that makes sense. Well, I appreciate what you're doing out here to increase the supply of housing, and I think this, I'd like to come visit out here once you get it up and going.
I know.